But I'm detecting in this class a feeling that there are other people who are not avant-garde and who are not hardcore, but who are more not afraid to do it. You just say, that's just who I am. I speak my mind, right? And so I'm hearing some people say, it's just the way I've learned to do things. I learned that it's better off, I'll go crazy if I don't, so I just say it, and then we deal with the consequences. So what that shows you is that, see, she's got a communication theory, right? It's got a situation that it applies to. It's got a mechanism, right? What's the mechanism of her theory? What drives it? The behaviors. What's that? Conformity, fear of being outside. So she's got a theory. And then she accounts for differences by saying, well, there are other groups of people who this doesn't apply to them. Now, this just shows you, again, the limited value of any given communication theory. There are about 300 communication theories out there, right? This is good for some things, but it's inadequate for other things. So now, let's deal with this question. If you wanted to change this, now we're going to do some group work in a little bit here. I want you to start thinking about this. Let's say that you are a consulting group. Okay, you're a group of people who are communication experts. Some company calls you up and says, we have a problem. We've got this thing going where unless everyone agrees, no one can say anything else. And there are things that have to be said in this company that we need to be said. So we need you to come up with a plan to train our people so that this doesn't happen. How would you do it? Based on this theory, what would you do to increase the ability of people to change the dynamics going on in that workplace? Let's say you are a public relations firm, and some political party comes to you and says, we have a problem. People think that our view is in the minority. And so even our supporters don't talk up in public. We need you, communication experts, to come up with a plan to change this, to transform this situation. All right, so we're gonna get at that. So what does this theory point to as the dynamic? We said is the conformity and fear of isolation. So what then can you as a communication expert begin to do differently? All right, so I'm going to break us up into these groups a little bit. We got here at 2:30. All right, we'll do a little bit of group work, then we'll take a break. Now, I want to break up into meaningful context groups here. PR people, raise your hands again. All right, this is not going to help us. Sports PR people. All right. Business PR people.
Business
Entertainment PR. All right, so a lot of people are entertainment PR. How about political community advocacy PR people?
You're a busy guy.
All right.
Does it all.
All right. So let's not even try with this. Let's just go groups of 4. All right. So groups of 4 here. Group of 4. You 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Be a group here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Group. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this group in the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. I want you to pretend you are a consulting group you decide what group it is. An entertainment group, a political advocacy group, maybe a social worker that's dealing with families that won't talk about family issues. You get together and you come up with a plan to do something about it. What does this theory say you can do?
I think it's us.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. Right. Right. We recommend that you do these things in order to change this issue.
And that's just a
Right. Yes. So you make a recommendations. Right. So if we want to change this situation, because we know this theory, we think you could do this, 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 and this. That would change it. Yeah.
I'm sick too, actually.
No, I thought it
Yeah.
was two different things.
Are you saying like that you don't want conformity to occur within the company and
Right.
a plan basically to have problems addressed within the company to have a positive change?
Right. You've got a situation where people are figuring out what they think everyone thinks, and they're just conforming to it. And you need something different to happen, because everyone brings, in good teamwork, everyone brings their different views and different skills and perspectives. So
what kind of communications plan can we?
yeah, what kind of communications plan? What training would you do for people? What would you do a campaign? Would you do a ad? Would you train people? What are you going to do? See, this is the question of theory. In the end of the day, what does this theory enable you to recommend? Because you understand what's going on. There's a couple of different ways you can go with this. So there's no solid answer, but I want you to start thinking about, because this is what's going on, we could do this, 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 and this to change it. Right. Hey, you guys got an idea what's going on now?
We're a little confused.
All right, you're a consulting group.
Okay.
You're all communication scholars. Some group comes to you, and they say, our sports team, is the morale is in the pits because everyone thinks they stink. And nobody, and everyone thinks this team is other team's going to win and win and win. So even our fans don't talk up anymore because they're afraid, of being isolated, to be embarrassed. So what is your communication plan? You've been hired to do something. So do you want to run ads? Do you want to train people? Do you want to have fan gathering? What do you want to do? Because you understand that the reason they're not talking up is because they're afraid of being isolated.
The fair.
I don't know. You figure it out. It could be sports, it could be business, it could be entertainment, it could be political. You guys talk about it. Figure it out. 3 or 4 things you're going to recommend.
That they are not we just happen to see negative side.
Like small workshops where you try everyone to feel like
I do, I just don't want to say.
I do have enough to judge you. You're not speaking.
That's right. The spiral of silence is hitting me.
Like, they have like a, I mean, I want to say like, party. I believe in the majority of my people like, I was saying like, at least in a lot of companies, they have orders for like, yeah. Summer parties. Yeah, I think certainly work environment out of really like more like.
There's even like some places that are dedicated to
General, we'll call that work. Basically, come up with this idea of one, say, for them to run with it. Here's an example we have.
Because even that way you're getting to first the individual employees work, but also like by them bringing family members, like, hi, this is my wife, this is my husband, we're kids.
Yeah, especially with three or four kids. Yeah.
You guys on a track here?
Yeah.
And some,
Right. You could do it. You definitely cross the line. When you step outside the office,
The front office wants to change the sept.
Yeah, or
Like the administration, like the president.
yeah, but you know what?
I know, I did it right
Like, they have like, if you're like on oh, I understand. They all start. No, we don't What? Oh, I gotta be right. No, I did fine. I did nothing.
Draft phrase.
Right. I understand that.
Something that needs
I guess depending on the topic.
You don't go to the best friend, you have to go to somebody that can make change. So like, how do you properly come in and make sure that
Right, change their.
Over level employees to sit like privately with management. This way they don't have to feel.
so like maybe like
I know important, like just like put down like where you are in your progress, and it's not being held like that's where you're leader of like the meeting and say like, hey, you want how long it comes to like talk about how we should get you going, jobs, get you
I think depending on the topic that you're showing, but this is really important to adjust things that are confidentiality. Because what if you really want to, talk to your boss about a topic that, you don't really want to bring up.
It's always like
okay, 2 minutes. So get them written down.
I wouldn't have any employees like more underground, like
General, yeah.
I want to do it more like, I guess, privately.
So you want to maybe break it up by divisions or become like maybe taxing section. We'll just speak to that group for a time, and then we'll go to the
Especially with smaller groups of people that work like me.
Probably or break it up into teams depending on who's working on the project and stuff like that.
So we have to now presentation of PowerPoint, that's the way to get more interactive. We just have
One-on-one interpersonal things like the
I mean, if you're working for like Johnson & Johnson, or if you're working for, you know,
Well, that's what the open doors, like meetings
Okay, let's get ourselves back here. So just turn around where you are. And, all right. So we've agreed that the spiral of silence is a bad thing because it doesn't let positive change take place, and it breaks up the possibility of what democratic process is supposed to be. So we assume that those things are good, so we want to break up spirals of silence. All right, so let's take one at a time, just one from each group at a time. And then let me get our back group here. I'm sorry, I can't. Who recorded for your group? Who's going to report for your group? There we go. All right. One thing. What kind of a context did you set? Was it sports, entertainment, political? Entertainment. Okay. So what was your recommendation?
Do you want to know the whole scenario?
Yeah, just give us a scenario quick and one recommendation.
We're talking about the band Fall Out Boy, how a lot of people don't like them solely because they're like big, and how to maybe reach out to the older fans who were more into them when they were their older style.
What group is it?
Fall Out Boy.
Fall Out Boy. Okay.
Pretty much trying to, not that they don't have a large fan base, it's the fact that their old fans kind of feel betrayed because now they're bigger.
Okay.
So trying to get back in touch with their old group.
Okay, so you got a fan problem. All right.
All right. So first, we proposed that they would promise to play more of their older songs and no more of the ones that on the newer CDs that make the fans feel more isolated, the older fans.
Okay, so we're going to reduce this fan right here. He's just so upset that he can't say how much he loves the Fall Out Boys. So, but if the Fall Out Boys will play more of their old songs, he won't be as isolated.
Yeah, then to his friends, they'll seem cooler again, and he won't feel bad saying, "Hey, I like this band."
Okay, so we could increase popularity of the View somehow. So we'll have them play more of their songs.
Yeah.
Right. So then, because we give the impression that more people are interested, he doesn't feel so isolated anymore. Okay. So that's one recommendation. So we have a recommendation. How about this group? What's your context? And what's one recommendation?
Well, our context is the Cincinnati Bengals and how they've had about 7 or 8 people arrested last year.
Okay, Cincinnati Bengals.
They're a
All
great
right.
football team. And they want to change the public opinion that the front office doesn't care and just wants, talent, and they don't care about.
So public opinion is like everything is shot
They're
here.
criminals.
Okay, they're criminals. They're all criminals. And this poor fan is just
There you go.
dejected over it. All right. So how are we going to rescue this poor fan?
Well, we did like 3 different types, like draft, trade, and current players. But I guess for the draft, we're going to start doing, there's going to be mandatory transition counseling for these college players coming in to teach them how to handle their money and how to become professional.
All right, all right, that's good. I want you to think like PR people though here for a minute. Your problem is not to just change the situation. Your problem is to let people know and change their perception of the situation. So that's a good point.
Tell people we're doing it.
So you tell people you're doing it. So you publicize the fact that we have now instituted a mandatory training transition. So you publicize corrections or you highlight things we're doing so that people feel, this guy feels he can stand up in his buddy group and say, hey, my team's got this mandatory thing going. So he doesn't feel as isolated. So he can, you're changing the public opinion so that he doesn't feel so isolated. All right, let's get another back. Who speaks for your group?
We did entertainment, and we are contacted with Britney Spears.
Okay. This guy is really, he's really depressed.
Obviously, we're for the most part, we're talking about the BMA performance and the custody battle that's currently going on.
Right.
And as PR people, we want to get a positive outlook out there for the fans that Britney Spears still has, and for the people who are watching the whole debacle going on.
So what are you going to do?
Obviously, have her, it worked for Paris Hilton, go off to charity events and get involved with, any other prestigious shows as far as maybe, going on The View or Oprah or anyone, shows that people consider to be important and intelligent. And obviously all the paparazzi photos that are out there of her are either out partying or, flashing stuff that we shouldn't be seeing. So obviously, get some more pictures out there, maybe, with their kids going out to the zoo, going out to the park, or even out with K-Fed, make it seem like it's all like, happy.
But don't shoot him while you're out with him.
Exactly.
Right.
And if anything, donate some of the money that she has.
All right, so public appearances, donations. So we're going to work on using the media networks to publicize a different positive thing. So this person, when he wants to speak up in a group of people, doesn't feel like public opinion is just working totally against him. Right. So because you understand the spiral of silence, you understand that the point is not to yell at this person, hey, what kind of a fan are you? The point is to give them more positive in the public opinion to work on.
For him to be able to stand up and talk about his fandom.
So he gets a feeling that the tide is turning, and I'm not afraid to talk. All right. Fandom. All right. Well, how about this group? Who speaks for this group? Prudence.
We're looking at it from a different perspective. I'm not sure if we have the right perspective or the wrong perspective. But we started off with a corporation, which was the Fox Network.
Okay.
And they had a problem that all of their employees were not speaking up and contributing. And we were brought in to fix all
Right. Okay, so you're brought into a network setting to get people to be more vocal about their differences.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
To contribute creatively.
Okay, so what are you going to do?
Well, the first thing we thought we should do was to analyze the problem, to meet with the management and
Okay, so you're going to meet with the management employees.
gather information.
Right.
And then propose a strategy, which would probably include meeting in departments with people and doing things like team building exercises, listening skills, brainstorming skills.
Okay, so the basic things of team building, which includes issues of giving voice to people who don't have voice, skill building about people speaking up, listening skills, appreciative listening. Okay, so you would take a skill-based among the group of people. This person now is in groups that are welcoming or being trained to welcome other voices. Okay, so you can do ways to reduce his isolation by putting him in teams. Right, another group, this group, right? What was your?
We did something similar to theirs as far as perspective. We just picked any large corporation or large business and had a similar approach with doing team building exercises and skill building. We were thinking about doing like seminars with departments, if there's different departments of the company, like the supply line versus management.
All right, so you can have smaller settings which are less threatening. Okay.
Maybe addressing the chain of command and as far as the comfort level, I guess, between employees with like work socials.
Okay.
Job socials, we were saying like that.
Okay, increase other social other social. So parties, picnics, so that people feel more together in general. Right. Let me just check. Any other ones that a group really felt good about you want to say, we have this strategy to reduce the fear of isolation? What?
Almost do like a reverse psychology kind of thing, like do like an interview or something and say, hey, we just want to really like thank our fans and everyone involved for not feeling this way. That way everyone's going to be like, wait, you don't feel this way? And then they won't feel that way.
I don't know about that, but we'll write it down.
I think discuss.
But here's the point I want to get at with a theoretical base. This theory says the problem is fear of isolation. So you start your strategies from how do we overcome a fear of isolation. So you can do different things. So just think of it, start always at the mechanism and work back. So if the problem is fear of isolation, we could start with the person themselves about helping them not be afraid of being isolated. What kind of people are not afraid of being isolated or left out of groups?
Confident.
People who are confident, people who have a sense of self-esteem, a sense of self-worth, a sense of personal strength. So part of what you can do is to build up in people the sense of the ability to stand alone if they need to. Giving them confidence, giving them examples of people from history who have stood up and stood alone. So giving them some inspiration or change within themselves, because the problem is fear of isolation. Another thing you can do is give them ways of expressing their views anonymously. Right? So if I'm in a group and I want people's opinions, but they're afraid to voice them, so I give everybody a 3x5 card, and I say, write down your opinion about this, and then I collect them, and I shuffle them, and I have 20 or 30 of them, and then I summarize them on the board. Do we know whose opinion this is? No. So that person is not as afraid of being isolated. That's called nominal group process. And you can use that in any group where there's peer pressure to conform to a view. Give everybody 3x5 cards, you let them write their answers to it, you shuffle them up, you summarize it, and you've got stuff, but they're not afraid of being isolated because it's anonymous. So you can give people anonymous ways to do it. Okay. You can also try to do publicity campaigns to change the public opinion. Now you may not change anybody's public opinion with your publicity campaigns. What do you change? Let's say we run a series of ads across the country, about our view about something. Not a single person in the country changes their opinion because of it. But we have still accomplished something. What have we accomplished?
Getting it out there.
We've changed the perception about this. So the people who are of that opinion feel more emboldened to speak out because their view showed up in the media. Okay, so it's not always about changing people's opinions, it's about changing the perception, which then gives your people strength to speak up because they're not as afraid of being isolated. Does that sound odd? Okay, you get the point. The point is that it's the fear of isolation that keeps people from speaking out. So if I see a lot of media coverage, if I see this is where the news stations are different, right? There are conservative and liberal news stations, right? Yes? What's a conservative news station? Fox News. What's a more liberal news station? CNN is a more liberal news station. So in a sense, Fox News is created to say to a group of people who have these opinions that didn't show up in the media before, now there's a media presence for your opinions. So now you are more bold to speak up about those opinions than there was before. So it changes the perception and the fear of speaking out. So we're living in a very confusing time with all this. Any last comments about this theory? Then we'll take a break. Any last comments? No, spiral of silence. What I want you to get, though, is the idea that a theory tells me what I think is going on, and once I start with that, I can work backwards into changing it. If it's fear of isolation, I build them up so they're not afraid of isolation. I can make the public think this is a more popular view. I can get it out there in the media. I can change public opinion about it. All right, let's break for